Hello and welcome back to this edition of Bayou Time. Again, your host, Keith Weissite, licensed clinical social worker with Terrible Home Care. Very glad you're joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it. And you know, I mention being a social worker on this show very often. It's what the LCSW stands for. But what you don't know is how much pride and joy I have in working with people who are making a difference, especially for the kids in our area. One of those people doing that, Joan Malbrough. Joan, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate that. And so I know one of those things, we're always kind of looking at how things are going, how we're doing. Tell the public and the viewing public a little bit about you. I know you've been an attorney here for many years, but what most people maybe don't know is that you've been rooted in our community for a long time.
Yes, I was born and raised in Houma and grew up in Broadmoor subdivision. I went to St. Bernadette and then Vanderbilt, graduated from Vanderbilt in 1979, went to Nicholls State, got my bachelor's degree there, and then went to Mississippi College School of Law and got my Juris Doctorate there in 1992. And then immediately came back to Houma to practice law.
Wow. And have been doing so ever since.
Yes,
right?
over 30 years.
Wow. And so it's interesting to be able to do that. And I know you've made a huge commitment to the community and a difference in the community. And now we see this program that you've always kind of known about. Let's talk a little bit about this Title 4D child support program and the importance of it.
Yeah, it's extremely important. People who need help collecting child support for their children will go to the district attorney's office and sign up for the 4D program, which allows the district attorney to pursue child support claim for them.
Right.
And the non-custodial parent is served and ordered to appear in court, but before they go before a judge, they appear before a hearing officer. And the hearing officer will collect all of the income information, expenses of the children, everything necessary to calculate child support, and make a recommendation on what the child support obligation should be. And if everyone accepts that recommendation, then there's no need to go to court.
Right.
If anyone objects to the recommendation, they have 5 days to file a written objection, and then they can appear before a district court. But I do that interim step to try to keep a lot of these cases out of court,
Right.
to make the program run more smoothly.
And, you know, it's one of those things where you kind of do some vetting, if you will, about what is the reality of the people involved.
Absolutely.
What can they afford, right?
Correct.
What is needed by the child, you know? And so it's a lot of discussions about what it is that the need is. It's a needs assessment, if you will, of the child and the two parents.
Correct.
One being the domiciliary parent and one the non-custodial.
One being the non-custodial parent.
Right.
And of course, we have a guideline in Louisiana that sets the child support amount based on the incomes of the parties, but it doesn't take into consideration things like private school, if you have a child that has a particular need, or additional tutoring or special medical expenses, things like that. Those can be added to the basic child support obligation. The non-custodial parent would be given a credit if they provide health insurance for the child.
Wow.
So all of those things are taken into consideration to try to get to an amount that is not only fair to the parents, but is fair to the children.
Right. And evaluating their special needs, whatever it may be. Not
Correct.
that they're a special needs child, but some people have these special needs. Let's say a child has got asthma, you know, and they've got to have certain things that they need. Let's say that the child really needs special tutoring, you know, or for
Right.
whatever it may be. And a lot of times when we see people, and I don't like using the word broken, but homes that they don't have both parents in or both primary caregivers in, they can have some of those emotional issues as well. Right?
Absolutely.
And we see that a lot.
And it's not just the necessities. Sometimes for development, a child needs to participate in sports or dance or art programs, things that will make them well-rounded adults.
Right.
Those things are important. And so we take all of that into consideration when determining a child support figure.
Yeah, that socialization aspect, very important.
Extremely important.
Because we know that, and I love the concept, the well-rounded child, right?
Right.
We want to make sure that they don't just have their basic needs, but they have some of their social needs, emotional needs, mental health needs, physical health, all of those things being considered. I love love the fact that y'all look into all of that. And so even me, knowing the program and knowing a lot about what happens, I like the fact that I'm learning something new about that as well. And so it's really good to be able to do that. I'm sorry.
Well-rounded children make healthy adults.
Yes.
So we try to make sure that the children get everything that they need from both parents.
Right. And empower the parents to be a part of that process, right?
Absolutely.
It says we want everybody to agree. And again, anything we can do to keep these cases from having to go to court is a win for everybody.
It definitely is. When parents go to court, the child loses because they tear each other apart and no one wins. It's
Right.
very sad in family law.
And so, right. And so when they're trying to make their case, the child almost inevitably ends up in the middle. And children, I know, prior to a certain age, have a way of blaming themselves. They become a little bit more aware that maybe this is my fault. And that can be a terrible thing for a child.
It's very sad.
Yeah. And so I love the fact that y'all look into all of those things. We try to keep it out of court. We try to do that. And it's with great communication too, right? We've got to find a way to be able to figure out what these needs are, determine that that's the way to go about doing it, and communicate with both parties. That takes a lot of expertise and communication skills, right?
Yes, it does.
And that's one of those things that is the value of you being an attorney for many years and also in our community for that long.
Yes, and I've mainly practiced family law for the last 30 years.
Right.
And so I've done a lot of child support calculations. I've dealt with a lot of families. So I have a lot of experience in the area.
I like it. We're going to talk about that and a whole lot more when we come back. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. Very good. All right. Joan Malbrough will continue to be with us. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back here on Bayou Time.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Alford and Associates for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality.
Hello and welcome back to this edition of Bayou Time. Again, your host, Keith Whiteside, LCSW. Thank you so much for joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it very, very much. Spending some time talking with Joan Malbrough. Joan, welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And again, being an attorney in this area for many, many years, growing up here, it's the other thing, you know the community.
Yes.
You know a lot of people. You probably end up seeing some of the relatives of people that you've known for many years. Right?
I've represented the children of people that I represented over the years.
Wow.
It's, surreal.
Yeah, some recidivism, if you will, right?
Yes.
As we see that in those programs. But it's one of those things where I like the process. And tell us a little bit about the story of how this came to be, where you had the option to become this hearing officer.
So I really planned to retire at the end of this year. I turned my law practice over to Celeste Gottschalk at the beginning of the year.
Right.
And I was finishing up all of my cases. And I've found out, because a notice went out to the members of the Terrebonne Bar Association,
Right.
that William Dunkelman, who founded the program,
Right.
Was retiring at the end of this year, and our judges were soliciting applications for people who might want to take over in that position. So he started in 1998, 25 years ago, and he was our first hearing officer in Terrebonne Parish. And when the opportunity presented itself, it was almost like a calling that I had to pursue, because my passion has been family law for so long.
Right.
So I decided to send in a resume.
And I'm sure the excitement level went up when the judges saw, oh my gosh, Joan said she would do this.
Yes, they were excited about it and called me in for a meeting. And we met and discussed it. And then the next day they made an offer to me and I accepted it. So
Wow.
I'll begin officially January 1st. Of course, we don't have court that day.
Right.
But my
So we'll be
official
excited for you on January 2nd.
Thank you.
So very interesting. It's so interesting how that happens, where, somebody that you didn't realize was retiring while you were also considering retiring. time, at exactly the same time,
Yeah.
this opportunity came up. Tell me what it is. And again, you've kind of mentioned it, that being family law for many years kind of drove the ship here for wanting to do this. Tell me what it is that you feel like being this hearing officer, why you feel like you're drawn to do that when you could retire and spend more time at the beach.
So it gives me an opportunity to be of service to the people of Terrebonne Parish, something that I'm kind of passionate about. I've
Sure.
been a long time member of the Kiwanis Club of Home.
Right.
And our mission is dedicated to children. It just seemed like the right fit for me. I wasn't actually ready to stop working altogether.
Right. Or fully retire, if you
Yeah,
will. Right?
I mean, I had some family issues in the last year. I lost my sister, I lost my mother,
Right.
and I took care of my mother for over a year. So it was kind of a necessity that I wasn't working as much.
Right.
And then, of course, she passed in May, and after the grief period, I kind of felt like I was ready to do something. And this just came up. It was sincerely divine intervention.
Wow. As God would have it, huh?
Yes.
And so, interestingly enough, as well, the timing of that, as you know, Mom had been sick for some time, but the timing of that, and the timing of her passing, and the recovery, and the
Yes.
timing of that recovery, which there is no timeline for. You know,
No, there
people think there
isn't.
is, and
No.
there isn't. But it's
No.
how that worked for you, in as much as, okay, now I'm ready for what's next, right?
It was right about the time that I was starting to feel better and ready to kind of move on career-wise. You know, I knew I wasn't done.
Yeah.
I felt like I couldn't continue to be in the battle of family law any longer. It's a daily battle.
Oh,
and
gosh. It's a
very
grind.
difficult.
Yeah.
Very difficult.
Well, because it's not just legalities, it's emotional.
It
You know,
is.
you can't really get involved with these kinds of cases without being emotional. Like, you wouldn't really be human if you didn't. right?
Correct. You have to be emotionally invested in it, or you're not going to do a good job.
Correct.
So I just felt like I didn't have that in me anymore. I
Right.
needed to take a break from that, but I still wanted to be part of the system and part of the process. And this was just a perfect fit.
And it's a part of what you can do to continue helping. And listen, I've spoken at Kiwanis clubs, and I know the passion of those people. And it's about serving, and it's about
is.
continuing to serve the community. And retirement doesn't have much to do with people in Kiwanis, because there are people that retired from their job, they're still going to maintain, how do I continue to help serving my community?
Oh, yes.
Right?
We have many retired people in Kiwanis internationally.
Right.
And they do a lot of work for the
Right.
children of
Right.
many communities.
So this is really exciting. Again, Joan Malbrough, who will officially be January 1st, the new hearing officer for the Title IV-D Child Development Program here in Terrebonne Parish, started by Bill Dunkelman some 25 years ago.
Right.
And you kind of get to carry that torch for him.
Yes.
And it's a passing of the torch. And again, I love the fact that I could tell, I knew that the judges were excited about that, just because of what you've done in our community for so many years, supporting family law here in our parish.
Well, thank you. And I have some very big shoes to fill, because Mr. Dunkelman's done an excellent job for
Right.
the last 25 years. And I hope I can do the job that he's done.
Well, it's quite obvious that you have clearly put your time in. You've learned family law and very good at family law. And at the right transitional time, there's no doubt, as God would have it, with him retiring and you needing this new step, you're going to do very, very well. And it's not going to be his shoes that you'll fill. It'll be the new normal for you. And it'll be the new normal for this parish. So congratulations. We want to make sure that we support you from a community standpoint, and also make sure that if there's something you need for communication, HTV wants to be a part of that as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Congratulations once again. A very Merry Christmas to you and a very Happy New Year as you start the new role on January 2nd.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right, guys, that will do it for this particular Bayou Time. Don't go anywhere. A lot more local programming right here on HTV.